On Sunday, Senator Bernie Sanders took on Joe Biden in the first one-on-one debate at CNN HQ in Washington. So it was Bernie Sanders versus Joe, mano a mano, to try to figure out who would be the best leader for the United States. And during that exchange, they ended up spawning a bit of a new meme. Now, it started during a discussion on Social Security and Biden's record for calling for cuts that Bernie Sanders rightly challenged him on. Let's take a look at that.
On an ad saying I'm opposed to Social Security that PolitiFact says is a flat lie, and that the Washington Post said is a flat lie.
Oh, well, let me ask you a question, Joe.
Yeah.
You're right here with me.
Yeah.
Have you been on the floor of the Senate? You were in the Senate for a few years.
Yeah.
Time and time again, talking about the necessity, with pride, about cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting veterans programs.
No.
You never said that.
No.
All right. America, go to the website right now. Go to the YouTube right now.
Go to the YouTube right now. The YouTube. Now, look, if you're watching this, you're already on the YouTube, which is great. So that means you're ahead of the game, right? Because here on the YouTube, we actually do show you the reality of the situation. And the reality is that Joe Biden absolutely did call for cuts in Medicare and Social Security. In fact, here's video of him on the House floor arguing in favor of a balanced budget amendment, which, yes, means cuts in Medicare and Social Security. Take a look.
When I introduced the budget freeze years ago, the liberals in my party said, it's an awful thing you're doing, Joe. You are all the programs we care about. You're freezing them. Money for the blind, the disabled, education, and so on. And my argument then is the one I make now, which is the strongest, most compelling reason to be for this amendment or an amendment. And that is that if we don't do that, all the things I care most about are going to be gone. I mean, whatever happened to that old conservative discipline about paying for what you spend? I'm up for re-election this year, and I'm going to remind everybody what I did at home, which is going to cost me politically. When I argued that we should freeze federal spending, I meant Social Security as well. I meant Medicare and Medicaid. I meant veterans benefits. I meant every single solitary thing in the government. And I not only tried it once, I tried it twice, I tried it a third time, and I tried it a fourth time.
Look, that's Joe Biden. Not mincing any words. He says we got to put it all on the table because, then the things that I have are going to be gone. Again, that's deferring to the right-wing position of, well, I mean, how are we going to afford it? How are we going to pay for it, right? I mean, we can't possibly raise taxes on rich people in order to pay for it. No, we can't do that. So we've got to cut Medicare and Social Security. We've got to put it all on the table, except, of course, for tax cuts. We cannot put those on the table. No. We've got to put it on the backs of poor people and the disabled and the elderly, etc. So look, I don't know about you, but I think putting Social Security on the table is 100% unacceptable for budget cuts. You can't do that. And as I was saying, you never see Republicans saying, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to raise taxes on wealthy people and raise the corporate tax rates just a little bit in order to do these budget negotiations. No, Republicans come in, they steamroll, and they say, you will cut taxes for corporations. You will cut taxes for the rich, and we don't have to pay for it. But once the bill comes due, because we always end up having to pay for it, that's okay. We'll cut Medicare and Social Security. And Democrats go, okay, how much? How much? Oh, no, we can't do it too much. But we'll do a little bit of a cut here and there. And we'll nick it to death. Because we also represent the corporations. We also represent the wealthy. Those are our donors, and that's what our donors want, is more tax cuts. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Democrats are always required to sacrifice domestic spending when it comes to poor people, elderly, disabled, etc. But Republicans are never asked to do this, unless, of course, you have people like Bernie Sanders, who actually does ask the corporations, no, pay your fair share. That's it. Pay your fair share in taxes, and then we can actually have these things. But again, here's the thing. You saw Joe Biden. He wasn't remiss about this. He wasn't like, God damn it. I really don't want to cut, put this on the table. I really hope we don't have to. I'm going to work my ass off to say no to Social Security cuts. No, we can work out a budget deal. Without that, Republicans, you're going to have to give something up. No, that wasn't what Joe Biden said. He said, we're going to cut Social Security. We're going to cut Medicare because we have to. Not even sad about it. Not even. He agreed with the Republicans and made their own argument for them. He basically, look, a lot of these corporate Democrats, our biggest complaint is that they run cover for Republicans, for conservatives. And so that is devastating. But if you're watching cable news, you don't see that. They don't show you that video. Have they ever showed that video on CNN? Have they ever showed that video on MSNBC and said, well, look, man, he was calling for the, cuts to Medicare and Social Security for a balanced budget. No, that's why Bernie Sanders smartly says, go to the YouTube because it's literally there. He knows. Look, corporate media runs defense for Biden. Was running defense for all the corporate Democrats. And look, if they were actually responsible media, they would have showed both sides. They would have showed the truth. They would have showed the video and asked Joe Biden, hey, now, wait a minute. And you might have changed your position now and have called for the expansion of Social Security. But back then, what was the deal then? Why were you calling for cuts? Because that's you on video calling for cuts. Why is your position changed now? What's different now than back then? That would have been good. That would have been smart questioning. But no, they don't do that. They don't do that at all. And it's amazing because you can't say that, oh man, they weren't prepared. You didn't think this was going to come up? No, of course it was going to come up. Look, Bernie Sanders has been hitting Joe Biden on Social Security for weeks now. Even being called, even being accused of doctoring an ad. Well, they bring up the doctored ad, but they don't show in reality, right, what Joe Biden really said about Social Security, about these cuts. So anyway, now with the serious stuff, let's go to some fun, right? We're going to call it the YouTube. We're going to call it the Facebook. I feel like this is such a senior thing, right? And no offense to seniors, right? But I just find it funny and pretty endearing, right? Even YouTube itself, after this happened, they changed their handle on Twitter to the YouTube. It's funny. Again, it's hilarious. And look, I don't think it's that much of a shot at Bernie's age, to be honest with you. Bernie's not a spring chicken, but neither is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a year younger than him. And so the difference is, of course, Bernie Sanders has massive support among young people. 70% of young people support Bernie Sanders. And then you have, of course, a massive amount of people 65 plus that support Joe Biden. And there are reasons for that. I think the biggest one, and I've talked about this on the show before, Biden is basically the electoral equivalent of a fuzzy, ugly sweater. You know the one. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody's got a fuzzy, ugly sweater, right? But it's comfortable. It's familiar. Yeah, it's got some stains on it, or yeah, it's super ugly, but man, it's comfortable and you know it, right? It's always there. It's always in your closet, right? And so you get back to a time where things aren't so radical, but you got your sweater, right? And so here's the thing, though. I say ugly sweater because the ugliness is apparent. You have the lies about cutting Social Security. You get the lies about the records and civil rights being in places where he actually wasn't. And so you also had the lies about getting arrested in South Africa. He did not. You also have his campaign and his campaign ads, I should say campaign staffers, dripping with condescension towards progressives. But none of those things, look, either voters don't care about that or they're more likely to not know about these things because cable news runs interference for them. Or maybe, and I've seen this before as well, people that are so afraid of the word revolution that they ignore policy that would massively help them in favor of labels. Labels. Right. Look, I don't know. Look, I think it's a complicated mix, but a lot of it is based on, where you get your news, where you consume your news, generally shows how informed you are. And if you're watching CNN, if you're watching MSNBC, in the Democratic primaries, you are not informed about your choices. You were told constantly that Bernie Sanders, cannot win. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. He's some sort of second coming of Fidel Castro, or Stalin, right? That he's praised dictators, which is not at all true. Yes, he has said positive things about a regime, and then also criticized that same regime. Said, boy, I really don't like those authoritarian dictatorships, but to be fair, they got a good literacy program. It's something. Cable news lives in a world where there is no nuance, where you can't talk about any positive thing if the leader is a negative. That's not a way to do negotiation. That's not a way to do diplomacy. That's not a way to make things better, right? And besides, one thing that cable news did not show you about that whole Cuba thing is the fact that Obama also said the same thing that Bernie Sanders says. Yes, your literacy program, we thought that was pretty good. But the mainstream media, they won't give an inch. They won't give an inch. And it's because they've chosen their side and they have a bias. And whether or not they know this bias, I think they do. I think it is on purpose. And I think it's malicious. I think there are bad faith actors within the media that are pushing a certain narrative. And look, they're pushing for a certain candidate, one that is status quo, that generally keeps their money, power, and influence. The other candidate, would disrupt that, and they can't abide it. All right. So now, I said I was going to go less serious here. So let's read a couple of tweets here. Now, there were some jokes and memes about the YouTube, right? And so let me just read a couple of those. Cry Every Time Puppy says, "Dear Lord, somebody please make a Bernie 2020 shirt that says, 'Go to the YouTube.'" I really need to work on that. That would be great for our Teespring. Just saying. And Kate Willett says, "Bernie is reaching out to seniors by calling it the YouTube." High outreach, right? And Julie Alexander finally says, "To be fair, my mother for years has told friends that I report on the YouTube." And so I guess I do the same thing. I report on the YouTube, and I am on the YouTube. So there you are. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.